Since every dollar spent on administration is a dollar not spent in the classroom, how will you measure the value of administration, minimize expenses outside of the classroom, and maximize the funds going to the classrooms? Mr. Darnell.
Well, of course, every dollar is very important in what we do in our schools. First of all, I mentioned earlier, I do want to make sure that our schools get the dollars that they need. The teachers have a tough job there to do, and they need the supplies and things that they need to get the students engaged. Also, the question though was here, I would definitely look at the administration salaries at the county office especially, and look at the numbers and find out what procedure we need to look at there, because what we need to do is we need to evaluate each position in our central office to find out if where we are in that area. If some jobs can be maybe two people can do one job as people retire or move on, but we do need to put more in our schools, and if we can take look at the question again here. We can take that money in particular and move more to our classrooms for our teachers, our schools. That's where we really need our money. That's where it goes on, is in our classrooms. Our teachers and our students. Our teachers work hard every day, and we can take money that we can find in other places that are not going to instruction, put that in our classrooms. Our teachers, a lot of times they see where other money goes, and they wonder why we can't get it in our classroom. The classroom is the place we need to put our money, but we can also make sure that we are minimizing what we're doing at our county office. Make sure that when we do our budgets, which our budget's over $259 million a year, we need to kind of prioritize where our money's going for our classrooms. And our classrooms is where we need to put our money. We need to put our money in there, because that's parents that pay taxes and things. They want their kid to get the quality education they need. Thank you.
There's been a lot of conversation about, as Mr. Darnell said, about the district office and the size of the district office. And one of the things that I am committed to doing is evaluating every position, making sure those positions are needed or not. And we know that there's some excess there, without question, and there's some changes that are going to be done, that are going to have to be made. Also, making sure we have the very best people in those positions. There are some expenses there. Because of what I see and being across the district, I see areas in a lot of places. And I really don't want to name any of those specifically at this point, but there are a lot of areas that we can cut back and put resources in the hands of teachers and students, and I'm committed to doing that. And I will give you an example. A place that's near and dear to me, Horn Lake High School. We currently have 5 assistant principals at Horn Lake High School. I'm not exactly sure why there are 5 assistant principals at Horn Lake High School. And you say, well, at least that's an expenditure in the building. That's true, but I believe we can have 3 effective assistant principals and get that job done. And so there's definitely some areas. I spoke to a principal a week ago or so, and talked to her about what some of the situations are in her building about personnel, and it is absolutely amazing, some of the stuff that we've created. But I agree totally that we've got to put the resources in the hands of the teachers, and again, that's part of my platform, is that we make sure we have the resources in the hands of teachers and students to make sure that we can help our students achieve academically to their maximum potential. I am totally committed to making sure that happens, and there's some hard decisions that have got to be made, and I've tried to have conversations with people in the business department. And when we were looking at our budget, we still don't have a budget for next year because there are some really tough situations that have to be addressed. And so going into this, whichever one of us is fortunate enough to be elected are going to really have some difficult decisions about the budget. We've got some overcrowding in schools, especially in the South Haven area. We're building classrooms in the DeSoto Central area, but there's some decisions that are going to have to be made in regards to that. And either there's going to have to be a bond issue, which I don't know how popular that's going to be, or a raise in the millage, but there's going to have to be something. You know, our schools, all of them aren't new anymore, and there are expenses that are maintenance that I'm not sure we exactly are prepared for. And so there are a lot of issues in regards to finances, but my commitment is that we're going to cut administrative costs and do everything we can to support our teachers and students, and making sure that everyone can achieve their maximum potential.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Same question, Dr. Robinson.
That's a tough question. There is a lot being spent on administration, especially at the district office. As Mr. Darnell and Mr. Ferguson have alluded to, those things will need to be looked at when one of us gets in office. But I think some of those positions can be consolidated, that one person could do maybe a job of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, consolidate those jobs to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. We don't want to create jobs just to say we're creating jobs. Our intent as a school personnel person is to do what is best for this district. And that is to educate our children and do what is best for them. So my philosophy is that those dollars need to go into the classroom, and most especially go to the teachers. Try to give teachers a raise whenever we can. You know, in Mississippi, we are probably number 49, 50 on the teacher pay rank. If we take some of these dollars that we are talking about and consolidate jobs and cut some money out of the budget, then maybe that balance of that cut that we've done can be put back into the classroom for teachers. Because I've been a teacher. I was out there as a teacher for 18 years. That is where the rubber meets the road. It's not the administrators, it's not the, all the positions. It is the day-to-day interaction with boys and girls at school. And we owe those teachers whatever we can do for them. It's hard being a single parent or a single individual and make your dollars stretch far enough to maintain a lifestyle that you would like to, because our pay is not where it should be. So I think we really need to make sure that we look at all that. I do think too that some of those dollars need to go back into the classroom. I mean, we have a huge technology push right now. It's not like it was when I grew up of notebook and paper and pencil. These kids, I have 5 grandchildren, I think I mentioned that, and they know a lot more about a camera. I have to ask them, okay, well, how do we do this, or how do you do that? Well, it's not because I taught them that. They learned it at school. Some of it they learn on their own. But, so I think to answer the question, we need to look at instruction, put our dollars there with teachers and classroom things for their classroom. My philosophy basically is, if you give you train a teacher, they come out of college, they're professionals, you give them what they need to run their classroom. We as administrators get out of the way and let them do their job. But I do think that we need to try to look for ways in the budget to decrease spending out there and put that back into the classroom and back into teacher salaries.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Same question, Mr. Uselton.
I have a very unique perspective on this question. Working at the school level, I hear that question all the time. Is if you're elected and you leave the school to go to the county office, what are you going to do about the money that's being spent there compared to the money that's being spent at the schools? Also, I have my undergraduate degree is in business finance. And so when people find that out, then they really start asking me questions about finances and the money from the county office level and the school level. But I feel like having that unique perspective would help me transition to the position of superintendent, because I can see it from a real world perspective. This past summer, I got a phone call from the county office, and the phone call was that you're losing a teacher assistant. You're not going to have one of your teacher assistant units for the 2014-2015 school year. Now, that may not sound like a big deal to some people, but as a principal and someone that I know the role that teacher assistant plays in our school, that was a big hit, not only to me, but the teachers that teacher assistant worked with, but most importantly to those students that they work with. I don't know if any of y'all know in here what a teacher assistant makes. A teacher assistant makes, and I may be saying this wrong, I'm going to tell you it's in that 12 to 15,000 range, if I'm almost positive. And when I get cut a teacher assistant that's making $12 to $15,000, and then we've got a budget at the county office what it is, it's hard to sell that to the teachers. It's hard to sell that to the parents. It's hard to sell that to anybody who has a vested interest in our school system. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more question.